Okay, so today I am talking about branding. This is, it's funny because I always say like it's my favorite subject, but overall, branding and design and strategy, these are definitely my favorite subjects. So today I'm actually going to share with you 5 brand strategies that you should focus at all times. This is something that I usually talk about when you're first starting, but no matter at what point you're at in your business, you should definitely work on these strategies. So I'm actually going to share them here on my screen. Let's see if I do this right. So the first one I want to share with you is to target a specific niche. So when you first start off, okay, you're going to build your business, or even if you already have your business, you definitely need to know who you're talking to. Because if you're trying to talk to everyone, we all know that if we're trying to talk to everyone, you're really talking to no one. So the more you know who you're talking to, so the more you know your niche, the more you understand them, and the more you know what they need, and the better you can serve them. So stick with that, target a specific niche. Some people really do nail down on a very, very specific niche. It really depends on your industry and where you're actually doing. But that's my first strategy. So I've seen this with my own clients. I actually seen this with myself, with my own brand, how you should talk to to that niche. Because once you do that, they definitely connect with you more, and you definitely understand what they need a lot more. So, okay, so that's the first one. The second one I want to share with you, and this is kind of like, I would say this is like one of my best ones, is build relationships. Okay, so what does that mean? I mean, because, sometimes we talk about, networking events. I can go here and I can go there, and you can kind of like just, kind of meet people. But what you need to do is you need to connect with people in a way where you're either sharing your wisdom or you're listening to them. So again, you can use this is actually one of the best things that you can do for your own business, be it a business, be it just a personal brand. Because once you create and then you build these relationships, means, the more people know you, the more people know what you offer, they're either going to use your services or actually recommend you to other people. So what can you do to build these type of relationships? You can do it through events. So focus on events where you're either going to find your niche in that event, or people that also are related to your niche. That's one thing. You can social media is an awesome way to connect with your people and build relationships. By DMing someone or by actually connecting on a more personal level. Hello, Marian. How are you? Nice to see you here. Thanks for joining me. So again, anyway, so social media is definitely another way that you can build relationships. A really good way for you to do this also is through groups. So in Facebook is really they're really focusing on groups this past year, and that's actually a very, very good way for you to start building these relationships. And again, definitely personal in person, not personal, but in person events definitely is a great place to be, but you have to mingle. You can't just go and kind of, stay on your little corner. You definitely have to mingle. So stick with that, with that thing in your mind where the more you build those relationships, the more you share your value, the more you share your knowledge, and the more you give value, and the more you listen, the better these relationships are going to be. And that's definitely a plus for your brand. So, you're listening to my wisdom and loving it. Thank you, Marian. Okay, so my next one, and this is one that I actually kind of like talk about all the time. You might actually have heard me say this already. The next one is to be consistent. That's like the main strategy, one of the main strategies for your brand. And that means be consistent on your voice, on the message you have, and also on your visuals. Most of the time when we talk about branding, a lot of people just think visually, think logo, colors, fonts. That's kind of like where we go when we speak about branding. But branding is not just your logo, and it's not just your colors. It's your message. It's your it's your mission. It's part of who you are and your values and what your brand really communicates. All of this is your brand. So you definitely have to be consistent. Um, Consistency brings familiarity, and that brings trust. And trust and consistency, or of course, they keep actually consistency keeps the trust intact. So familiarity brings trust, and consistency keeps that trust intact. So that's important. So keep, stick with the same voice, stick with the same visuals, stick with the same message, stay consistent. Now, how can you do that? I would say invest some of your time into establishing brand guidelines. And when I say that, I still talk about your voice, your message, and your visuals. So how do you write? How do you write emails? How do you write messages? How do you connect with people? How do you talk? How do you sign off? What are your values? They definitely spill into your branding. That's totally something that happens. So you should have some in a place somewhere. Just put down all of these things and write them all down. Those are your brand guidelines. Of course, you can put in your logo, how your logo should be used, all your visuals, of course, your colors, just keep that consistent as well. Same thing with your fonts. You want to stay consistent. You definitely don't want to have font 1 and 2 on your website and then font 5 and 6 on your graphics on social. You definitely want to stick with the same fonts. So consistency is definitely key. Now, number 4. Okay, number 4. This is a fun one. And this might be a hard one too. Be authentic. Okay, so that includes telling your story. So if you have a personal brand, or even if you have a business brand, you should still tell your story. Either tell the story of your business, of how your business came to be, or tell your own story for your personal brand. So nothing connects to people more than when you're really truly authentic and you tell your story and you show your values. So when you share your story with authenticity, what happens is your audience totally relates to it, and when they relate to it, they feel connected. They feel connected to you. They feel connected to your business. That's just a ton of plus, right? So let me know if you agree with me. It's hard to be authentic sometimes because sometimes we're afraid of judgment. Sometimes we're afraid of actually being judged. We're afraid of showing too much, and then we try to keep a distance. But actually, when you share your story and when you show off who you really are, being authentic, it connects you with your people. So that's number 4. Marion says you're a great example of authenticity. Thank you. There you go. You can use my example. But that's something that I think we need to be comfortable with too. It's hard. I understand that it's hard. Even for me, sometimes it's hard. I mean, in the beginning of this live, I had a bit of a hesitation to talk about what's going on in the world, how we're all being affected by it. And the hesitation kind of comes from, how people will see you. Am I going to be, is this, I don't want to be too much. I don't want to definitely don't want to sound, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to sit, I don't have an opinion on it. All I want to do and all I want to share is how I try to see a positive in everything, even the bad stuff. So that's how I shared about how I think that even at this bad time, how we can connect to people that we love and friends or even business partners or people that are in our circle via, the internet, online. So anyway, okay. So number 5, last one, and I want to hear this. This is a good one. This is the one that I have to talk about. Establish an online presence. Of course, right? Come on, Sabila. That's kind of really? Are you talking about that? Yeah, I am. And why am I talking about this? Because sometimes we tend to focus on followers more than other things. We tend to focus on social media only, or we tend to focus on, I don't want to say just vanity projects, but the most important thing is you have to establish your presence online by using a hub. That hub is your website. So that's kind of like why I wanted to talk about this. So even though you're going to be everywhere, you're going to, there's several ways that you can do this, and I'm going to give you some examples, but just keep in mind that your website is a hub for all of your information. Everything you do, everywhere on social media, podcasts, video, whatever you do comes back to your website. It needs to be in your website somehow. So that will be your hub. So think about this. This is important. That's one of the reasons why we all, pretty much believe, and then we kind of go into business thinking, okay, I have to build myself a website. That's our first thing. That's our first thought. But that's because your website is your hub. So, okay, so how can you establish, I have a couple examples here. How can you establish an online presence? You can do video like I'm doing now. That's one thing. You can definitely do Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives. You can stream video to other platforms. You could do Instagram. Right now, I'm just focusing on Facebook Live, mostly because that's where I'm more comfortable with. That's the platform I chose. That's where most of my people are. And I don't want to take everything at once. So you might be on the same page as me. So even though we want to, maybe I should do Instagram, maybe I should do Pinterest and this and that. So maybe just, baby steps is a good way to start. So video is one thing. Another thing too is podcast. Not that you should have your own podcast, but you can actually pitch to podcasts, to be interviewed, to be featured somehow. That's a good place. That's a good way to establish a good online presence. Another thing is, of course, I already said mention to social media through posts, through sharing your knowledge, sharing your knowledge, basically giving value to your people. That's definitely a good way to do it. And another thing that a lot of people really don't think about is working on your SEO. Oh my God, I've said the word. Actually, it's not even a word. I said those 3 little letters. Search engine optimization. That's something that most of us don't even want to touch on because we're like scared of it. But put that in your list, because optimizing what you have on your website actually helps you establish that online presence. How? By using, of course, where do people go when they're searching for anything? They go to Google, right? If they search for anything that's related to your service, to what you offer, you kind of have to show up somehow on Google. Okay, so that takes a while. Of course, it's a long road to get there. There's many little steps and big steps you have to take, but that's something definitely that you should consider. So if you don't want to deal with it now, maybe because you're starting or it's something a bit scary, which is fine, just take it on. Like I said, baby steps. But keep it on your list, because that's definitely part of having an online business. So, okay, so I think that's it. Those are my five big strategies. I want to spell them out again. First one is target a specific niche. That's important. Build relationships. That's number 2. Number 3 is be consistent. Number 4 is be authentic and tell your story. And number 5, establish an online presence. So that's it. Those are the 5 big strategies I've been using for myself, and I've seen my clients build successful brands through using those 5 strategies. So let me know if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about. Hop in the comments and talk to me. I'd love to hear from you. Okay? Thank you so much. Again, have an awesome weekend. Take care.